Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Leadership with a Twist podcast. I'm your host, Heather McGonigal, here with my co host, Barbara Schindler. Welcome back. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the chaotic external environment. Yay! uh, no, but all kidding aside, you may have noticed that there are a lot of big changes out of your control that are impacting your business, the results, your team, your clients, everything. It feels like a lot keeps happening in the larger world. That's the external environment. And your business is inside of that and has to respond, gets impacted by it, and it's impacting choices that you may be facing. So today we want to talk a little bit about that.
Right. And the more you have done, this is one of those things that, the more you have your clarity of roles, the structures and processes and systems, and the planning, your strategic planning and how you're project managing that out is foundational. And the frustration, I got on a call the other day with a client and they were like, frustration is the word of the week. Right.
Okay.
And we went through all the areas. This was frustrating, and that was frustrating, and that was frustrating. And the truth is, yeah, that it can be frustrating,
Hmm.
but please know that everything you have put in place that seems more contained, I'll call it, not necessarily controlled. We're not going for control in business, but the understanding of agreements and how we're structured to do certain things and our expectations through our plans that we have projected out is foundational for your success, but there's more needed today. And that's what we're talking about today, Heather, when you're introducing, okay, then there's what we consider chaos, because it's, I thought this was going to happen, that's happening. Look what's happening now. What's happening now is part of the strategy of driving business to your outcome goals today.
So, what I hear you saying, Barbara, is that the infrastructure of the business, the infrastructure that we've built up until now, will serve us well in chaotic business times, in a troubled business environment. The more infrastructure we have in place, that's still good news because that structure is there to support us as we're weathering the storms.
Absolutely. When you get to be a stage two, stage three level in your business, meaning you have infrastructure, a team, trained team, you have leadership, you have collaboration, good team meetings, all of these things, what you will find in these current times, these challenging times when you're moving through change on the wide external world that you cannot control, but you do need to be strategically paying attention to, is you'll see the weak spots, right?
Mhm.
They're going to surface. Those are those frustration
the
levels
the weak
that
spots within your business.
in within the structure. It's like,
Okay.
oh, we have to, strengthen the structure and agenda running in our business because there's more to talk about and our meetings are going long, our brains are tired, we're not in a good place to make the best decisions anymore, right? So then it's like, oh, we need to kind of reset our approach to our agendas and our team meetings because they're essential right now. So foundationally, having that knowledge is going to help you pinpoint where the weak spots are. But
Yes.
again, those pieces, you're not necessarily back in what we consider a stage one company where this is the normal. Like we don't
Right.
know what our role is, type of thing. We're wearing 3 and 5 hats and we're all doing everything together, right? You want to be able to differentiate. That's not what's happening in your company
Right.
because that
We're not
creative,
all the way back there.
right,
We may feel chaos, a little bit of chaos coming in, but don't panic because you're not all the way back at the beginning. You still are a more advanced company. You have infrastructure in to support you. You just kind of have to shore up some of your
so don't let
practices
that
and
all go out the
agreements.
window.
Yes.
Lean into it and expand your knowledge These are the
Mhm.
opportunities, right? To expand your knowledge on communication, connection, pieces that, what do we need to do today? What are you seeing over in customer service? And we might be like, oh, we need them to be spending more time in our strategic planning meetings because customer service is getting the pulse of the customers' reactions to the current times, how they're buying, how they're responding to our product delivery, all of those things.
Yes, exactly. Great. So, and there's good information there. So, you mentioned customer service. This is a great source of information in all companies, just to use as a good example, because customer service is the one department having direct connection with your clients. So, what are they noticing? What's emerging? What new things are your clients requesting? What's really going on? If to quote a very powerful Barbara quote that we go back to here at Empowering Leadership Teams, is the best information is where the action is. And this is a great application of that teaching, because in a time like this where the external drivers might be bumping your business around a little bit, it's impacting your clients, it's impacting your business. Go to the source, go to your customer service department and hear what your clients are really saying. What are they actually concerned about? What's really impacting them? What are they expressing they need differently? Is there anywhere that you can meet them? Any shifts you might want to make or not? It's just really valuable information you have right there at your fingertips. And so this is just a good reminder and a good example, because everywhere inside of your company, you have a lot of information that you can go mine during these times to get greater clarity before you make big, that's hard to say,
Big decisions.
big business shifts or decisions, right? You might
Yeah.
feel pulled to make some big business shifts or decisions in response to the changes that are happening in the external environment. You don't want to make any chaos driven, rushed decisions, emotionally driven decisions. You want to make good, thought out business decisions. And so you want to go to the source for some key information. Go to your clients, go to your team, gather information, talk about it with your team, get collaborative, get creative. So let's talk a little bit about getting creative too.
Right. You know what was coming to my mind as I was listening to what you were just sharing is, we're always looking to what's the opportunity here, right?
Mhm.
And even though this is not necessarily a business environment for the majority of companies in many industries, it's not necessarily the time that we're going to grow this business. We're ready to scale, right? Because there is economic and industry related restrictions happening in the external environment that are disruptive right now, not settled down enough to be able to invest in a way you might. Now, I'm not saying not everybody is not ready to grow and scale, but the interesting thing that's happening here in holding a steady state, keeping your business healthy, keeping your team engaged and working at their best in these current times. Everything you learn in the innovation and creativity that we're diving into here is what you need to know how to do to grow and scale a business.
Yes.
So there's a great opportunity here, is my point. Okay. And then, so yeah, so how do we work with that creativity? You've touched on, Heather, is like, who else needs to be at this table when we're having this discussion to make decisions to take action? Who might have a touch point that we need to be open to bringing more vantage points in? This is that innovation of team collaboration that we're talking about at this moment.
Yes. And so I brought a quote here today for this conversation, and it is as follows. Creativity is messy. The creative process is a process of surrender, not control. And that's from the great Julia Cameron, who um, teaches and works a lot with artists and their creative processes. So, kind of
Yes, and her work as the Artist's Way book that she put out there and all those trainings have had a long trained and still do as a reference for how to work with creativity.
So,
Um,
this idea that creativity is messy, I think Barbara and I also wanted to bring that to you all in this conversation so that there's also a way that you can be at peace in the messiness of chaos. So that if things feel a little messy and chaotic, that you can know that's okay. That's a normal part of the creative process. It doesn't necessarily mean anything bad or wrong. In fact, we want things to maybe look a little messy and chaotic if we're actually being creative and innovative.
right,
Maybe we don't want our clients front facing to see a mess, but inside of our collaborative team meeting where we're trying to get innovative in what our clients might be needing now or what's emerging, we might want to have some messy brainstorming. We might want to throw a bunch of ideas out there and see what we want to explore and not try to control it all. We might want to really let people bring a bunch of ideas forward and explore them further than we have in the past because of how rapidly the external market is shifting, right? And
right.
to know that that is good, that that is part of creating and innovating, it is not bad.
Right. And part of that is not to jump to decisions, actions, conclusions. It's about building even more curiosity in that's those creative conversations, those brainstorming spaces of like, and what else might be happening? And what else might we try? And then discerning, like, well, how might that play out? And then the other thing that tends to sometimes be a need for development area, let's put it that way for teams, is following up. So how is it going? What information do we have now? Remember, getting to
Yeah.
our goals is not a straight line, right? So it's like what's happening now? We took this step, and there's one team we work with right now in the launching field, right? And they were adding some new ways of approaching the work that they deliver for their clients, for what they're teaching. And they became very innovative, which was helpful in their, okay, so let's try this. It's kind of like split testing, like let's try this and let's try this and let's see what happens. So that follow-up discernment, instead of we got this, we're going with that, which is kind of how they started their last launching product. And then they were like, wait a minute, we need to step by step keep coming back to the table. And we're emphasizing chaos because creativity is disruption of order, change in your expectations. I thought, in painting, if we're using Julia Cameron, it's like, I thought that was going to be the perfect blue. I painted that sky and it came out really dark. Oh, maybe I'm going to put a darker mood and a rainy day in this painting. Like we're going to work with something to see what's happening and how we can keep moving towards the ultimate goal we're going for. And the ultimate goal, obviously, is client satisfaction, a healthy business, bringing in the revenue we need, and really taking care of our team and helping our team, which the business depends on for getting results, to be learning and working together, getting their needs met to be delivering at the level that they can innovatively together. And there are opportunities there to build team action together with those kind of follow-up steps that might be areas that are, needing to develop anyway.
Well, let's take this step by step because I also, there's a few things in what you're sharing that I want to highlight. I hear, in the quote that we shared, the creative process is a process of surrender, not control. It's also interesting in the example that you gave of the launching company that they're then doing something, but in a way, as they're doing it, they're watching it a little more closely. But that's different than trying to control it. In business, the good thing is we do have these business goals and outcomes. We have these numbers we know we're going for. And that is good news because we, in some other areas of life and relationship, the goals and targets we are going for can be more fuzzy. And it's sort of a gift in business. It is a gift in business that we can have these clear goals defined, these numbers that we're working towards, so we can be watching those. And so the cool thing in business is that we can be innovative and creative, and we can choose to try on something more innovative, as you were describing in the course of this launch. And what I heard is the company was trying on more innovative things, and as they were doing so, they were pausing a little more frequently to look at the results and go, is this working? Is it not working? Let's adjust. Let's tinker. It's almost like a chef in the kitchen trying a new recipe out and like adjusting the spices and things a little bit as they go, instead of waiting all the way to the end and being like, oh, it didn't turn out this time and next time I'll just do these other things differently. They're tweaking it as they go. And that's different than being controlling. It's looking and watching the business outcome and allowing the space for innovation and creativity in the midst of it.
Yeah, much more working in the process than waiting for the outcome to discern, which is good too. Okay, what did we learn? What are we going to do next
Yeah,
time?
debriefs, they are
Yes,
definitely important, but this
right.
is a sort of a different thing of like in these kinds of environments that a lot of business find themselves in today. This is a way where you might add more innovation in the moment so that you don't have to wait for the next launch or the next event or the next new product to try a few things differently and see if they move the needle in a positive way. And so that's the one hand. And again, this is how to add innovation inside a business in the moment. And then you started to talk about taking care of the team inside of this sort of chaotic time where, and I think that's a separate thing we definitely want to make sure we get to talk about today, which is that what's happening in the world today feels chaotic to most people, I feel. And it is impacting people on your team. It's impacting you and it's impacting people on your team. And it's, I feel, a part of the everyday part of being in business and being on a team together and being human that I think we have to acknowledge that we come into work on different days carrying different emotional impacts based on what's happening in the world.
Right now, leadership more on a global and a country level, no matter what country you're in, actually.
Yes.
We happen to be based in the US and have that personal experience in our environment. But there are decisions being made that are impacting, in different ways, financially, structurally, all types of things like that, that are actually impacting, coming back, just bring it home to your team. So we want to be aware that people might be adjusting. There's a lot of transition going on, like what's happened now that is impacting whether it's higher prices or different things like that for
Or
people.
just feeling more uncertain. There's
Mhm.
definitely this feeling, maybe, that, like, oh my gosh, what else is going to happen? So, this greater sense of uncertainty, even if life always has uncertainty, I think there's a degree of things happening that make us all feel a little more aware of this sense of uncertainty and powerlessness.
Right. And there are opportunities. One of the channels that's popping into my head in this conversation is we do focus on mindfulness and training in leadership and behavior. So it is that moment for ourselves individually, our teams, giving people space to be like, let me just take a breath. I'm okay in this, right? And that's what I'm really leaning into. Your team structure itself, the infrastructure of your business is something you can all pause and lean into. And personally, for each team member, each person, each human that's part of your business, there is that space like, hey, let's just take a 10-minute break. I know this was a lot of brain space right now, and we all might have a little limited brain space more than usual. And that's okay. Right. And so, hey, let's take a break and come back tomorrow morning. This was a lot to think through. It's those kind of pieces, just reminding people, let's take a 15-minute coffee break and come back just to refresh ourselves, take a breath, go outside for a walk, take an extra long break today at lunchtime, whatever that might be, is something we want to be aware of so we can make the best decisions, take the best actions, and bring our best selves to the table over and over again. So there's the human element that basically your business has similar needs. Take a pause for a minute. And I know things are moving fast, but you want to be able to make the best decisions. Don't make assumptions. Be
I think
real in the
any
moment.
time if the energy starts to feel like we can't take a break, we need this decision now, that is an indicator we must take a break. And if I'm feeling this, somebody else in the company is feeling this too. And if we're feeling this energy, that means emotions are driving the business, are driving the thinking, are driving the decisions, and that ultimately is not going to lead us to the best decision making.
Right. And ultimately, our teaching for over a past decade now has been whoever's close enough to self leadership, their best thinking, having the most presence to be stable, offer the pause, right?
Yes.
Because if you're feeling it, like you said, how that's where I'm playing from, is then probably everybody needs to take a breath to get their brain a rest for a minute, to get their emotions settled down so that they can have better thinking. And again, it could be coming from personal, professional, business goals, personal goals, all kinds of stuff is happening in the whole person that is at the table or on the Zoom with the team, right?
And, Barbara, we started out this call talking about the foundational infrastructure of your business, and you have that in place. And then, sort of, the external environment's chaotic and it pushes and it stretches that infrastructure and it shows some cracks and weaknesses. So, you may have a good foundational structure and infrastructure in place in your business for good self care, for team agreements around taking time off and lunch breaks and all those things. And yet, right now, in a more chaotic, fast changing external environment, some of those things might not be happening in the healthy way that they were. They might be showing some cracks. They might need you as a leader to demonstrate and resurface the healthy agreements. So I will just say, the Barbara and I do work with in-person teams and virtual teams. Primarily, the companies we've worked with over the years have been virtual. And when you're a fully remote team, you have to work a little more consciously to demonstrate, hey, I'm taking time off, I'm stepping away, right? We have teams that have Slack channels where they communicate this to each other. Hey, I'm going out for a 20-minute walk, I will be right back. And this makes a huge difference if you're a leader in an organization and you send a message like that. It gives your team members permission to take a break as well. It shows them that we don't just say we want a healthy culture and we want you to take care of yourself. We actually do that. And you may think you have a healthy culture, everybody knows that, you have those agreements in place, but this may be a moment in time where you need to remind everybody that it's okay and like let's all do these things to take care of ourselves. And again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you're feeling it, if you're feeling a little stretched, stressed, tired, somebody else is too. So raise it, demonstrate the good self care, make it vocal, make it visible to others so that others feel the permission to do the same.
Right. And I think the one last thing I want to emphasize that we touched on both in our conversations is, that place of curiosity that comes in. Ask those open-ended questions to your team. What do you see happening now? How do you think that would play out? What are you noticing that is different than when we planned this 3 months ago? What are you seeing today? And these are practices that to some level every team is doing. We're just really leaning in saying this is what's going to help you and your team and your business today, leaning more into that checking in, creativity, curiosity, all of those things that we're discussing here. So it's like, lean into these areas to be able to navigate in a very healthy way and get greater outcomes because there's opportunities always in these shifts that we need to do.
Yes. All right. So I will remind you of our quote before we wrap up for today, and that's creativity is messy. The creative process is a process of surrender, not control. If you're seeing some mess around you, trust that it's part of the process. It doesn't mean anything is wrong, nothing is broken. It's all a part of the healthy process of being in business today in an ever changing environment. And you've got this. If you need any support, you can reach out to Barbara or myself. We do discovery calls where you can get one on one coaching support and help get this particular teaching customized to whatever you're going through. Otherwise, you can share with us in the comments anything that spoke to you in this episode, any questions you may have. We love what we do. We love supporting leaders and small entrepreneurial businesses. Thank you for being here. We hope you got a helpful nugget out of today. Thank you, Barbara, for being here with me in this conversation, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.